Chris, I imagine that you can take your pick. Who's the lucky guy? Billy Nolan, Chris Hargensen said sullenly. Well, isn't he the lucky one? Desjardins remarked. What are you going to give him for a party favor, Chris? A bloody Kotex? Or how about some used toilet paper? I understand these things seem to be your sack these days. Chris went red. I'm leaving. I don't have to listen to that. Desjardins had not been able to get the image of Carrie out of her mind all weekend. Carrie screaming, blubbering, a wet napkin plastered squarely in the middle of her pubic hair, and her own sick, angry reaction. And now as Chris tried to storm out past her, she reached out and slammed her against a row of dented, olive-colored lockers beside the inner door. Chris's eyes widened with shocked disbelief. Then a kind of insane rage filled her face. You can't hit us, she screamed. You'll get canned for this. See if you don't, you bitch. The other girls winced and sucked their breath and stared at the floor. It was getting out of hand. Sue noticed out of the corner of her eye that Marty and Donna Thibodeau were holding hands. I don't really care, Hargensen, Desjardins said. If you or any of you girls think I'm wearing my teacher hat right now, you're making a bad mistake. I just want you all to know that you did a shitty thing on Friday. A really, really shitty thing. Chris Hargensen was sneering at the floor. The rest of the girls were looking miserably at anything but their gym instructor. Sue found herself looking into the shower stall, the scene of the crime, and jerked her glance elsewhere. None of them had ever heard a teacher calling anything shitty before. Did any of you stop to think that Carrie White has feelings? Do any of you ever stop to think? Sue? Fern? Helen? Jessica? Any of you? You think she's ugly. Well, you're ugly. I saw it on Friday morning. Chris Hargensen was mumbling about her father being a lawyer. Shut up, Desjardins yelled in her face. Chris recoiled, and so suddenly that her head struck the lockers behind her. She began to whine and rub her head. One more remark out of you, Desjardins said softly, and I'll throw you across the room. Want to find out if I'm telling the truth? Chris, who had apparently decided she was dealing with a mad woman, said nothing. Desjardins put her hands on her hips. The office has decided on punishment for you girls. Not my punishment, I'm sorry to say. My idea was 3 days suspension and refusal of your prom tickets. Several girls looked at each other and muttered unhappily. That would have hit you where it lived, wouldn't it have? Desjardins continued. Unfortunately, Ewan is staffed completely by men in an administration wing